Welcome back, everyone, to the Paladins Premier League. My name is Gormizer, and we're going into our second set of the day. Kind of surprise 4-0, kind of lengthening, or I guess shortening the day for us there in the first set. Next up, it's going to be Kanga versus the guys behind me, Renegades. And to join me on the desk for this one, I have Nick Pretty Hair Keo.
Hello.
And, I mean, this is going to be an interesting
Gore, what the hell's going on at our desk?
Well,
I got to ask.
Even better, I got a sword for you.
Wow.
I don't know.
Right.
I'm
Sorry
pretty sure
asked.
Fawn was back here threatening people. Not entirely on the mark.
There was a pirate explosion.
Explosion
At the desk.
But I mean, this is going to be a fun one. It's National Talk Like a Pirate Day. And I think I threw the
Don't bait
the
me with
fake
that,
parrot
dude.
at
I'm
Dave
gonna
earlier.
save everyone. I'm not even gonna go there because I
Not
could, and
You
I
could?
have in the past, but I'm not going to.
You
today.
could be the pirate we all need. Maybe even the pirate we deserve.
You guys deserve a hell of a pirate for sure. And finishing that thought and getting into this set, man. Given that that was such a sweep earlier and kind of unexpected, like you put it, I'm hoping we get a little bit more sauce, and I think we should from this Renegades Kanga set. Now, both teams known to be a little bit volatile. You're not quite sure which one you're going to get on the day, but when they're both hot, I mean, these are teams that can take down some of the best in the league. Kanga's most recent performance was beating NIP. So there you go. That's the kind of qualification for that statement.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Beating NIP right now for Kanga has put them in an echelon that we haven't really maybe had for them as of late. Whereas, I mean, Renegades were able to pull out a pretty decently sized win against SSG.
Yeah.
But it was the first win since week 1 for them. So you're kind of having to take anything with a grain of salt.
True.
And when you look at Kanga, there's a ton of guys to talk about. But Joel's has kind of been the forefront runner for them as of late. This, especially with what I just saw, in my mind, Frontlines are kind of fighting for their lineup.
Yeah, I mean, off-tanks have to prove a lot this season. I think point frontliners are getting a lot of pressure now as well, because sometimes they're being the prioritization now, slightly shifting over to Barrack. You know what I mean? He's been a real big part of it. And a real big part of Kanga is this man right here. Long-time member, part-time support, part-time frontline, part-time DPS, pretty much mainly DPS at this point. Chronix performing so many different roles for Kanga over their lifetime and filling, I think, more of a leadership role. As you know, you kind of fall into that when you're one of the more veteran members. He's been with them since the damn beginning, so really naturally, I think, has to step up and take a lot of weight. One of the natural Australian-born members of Kanga Esports as well. They are sporting one North American-born and one European-born player, but this is an Aussie team through and through.
Just being able to come in, I mean, like you said, Aussie team through and through, and his performance was not only impactful, a lot of the replays you see there versus Virtus Pro, but I mean, when they were playing against NIP, he is kind of one of the cornerstones that is leading them ahead. Very versatile, as we have seen, being able to kind of bring out Cassie, bring out Victor whenever he wants. Very, very good on multiple maps as well, which so far has been like the one thing I think a lot of teams are kind of lacking. I mean, we got some Frozen Guard, we got some Ice Mines in there, and some teams just haven't been able to bring those out.
Frogard has always been a little bit of a Kanga-flavored map way back in the day. Kind of a funny origin story to maybe qualify that a little bit is that they're an international team, right? They're Australian-born for the most part. So when they would get to LAN, right, they're 3 to 6 months out of practice with all these other teams, right? So the quicker they can move the set to the maps nobody played, the better chance they had at these international lands back in the day. Because if they could level the playing field in just terms of nobody has a strategy on the map, they were better off, and a lot of times would win just through sheer mechanic.
Honestly, there's still enough maps in the game that they could try to do it. It's a little more shaky, I think, as you get to Game 3 if you're down 3-0. But they have that opportunity. We'll have to see how they fare for today against their opponents here on your screen, the Renegades that are coming through. It looks like, I believe, Moonshopper about to sit down with the group as they're all geting warmed up.
The hair dye is fading across the line, Gore.
It's like it gets reinvigorated with every win.
We need to redip all of our Renegades back in the cotton candy bin and get the hair colors back.
The vibrance. I mean, maybe it does come down. You can see a little less there. And now I think the headband fully working for Invol. You can kind of see it through the curls there. But that was always kind of the question.
He has a headband on?
Yeah, it's very, very barely visible
yeah, you
there.
can barely see that.
But, keeping that out of his eyes. And he is Mr. Consistent when it comes down to this team. And it's really weird because when you look at it, there's two teams, and you have to wonder maybe if it's who's around them that's making them either as consistent or inconsistent as has been. But I mean, he's brought out Bomb King, which is not a sentence I think I would get to say too much about Invocal. But I mean, he's versatile just as much, if not maybe even more, than we've seen out of Chronix.
Yeah, man, and that's part of it, right? You have this huge consistency. And I swear to God, this is one of those Nictistics for sure, right? May only look like a 2.0 KDA, but I promise you it's higher. This guy always frags out, and we talked about it so much, it's just kind of a meme at this point that he's always positive. He's always like 9-3 or something when his team is getting 4-0'd. But he can do it on a lot of different characters, right? And I'm sure, you know, he's not doing that on purpose. He's not War doing it where he is objectively as a frontline. That was bad. Yeah. War Doom's reputation for not wanting to die as a frontline. He's not going to leave it all out on the line for you. He's not going to peel for you if it means it's putting his own KD at risk. I missed that guy, though, for sure. And Vocal certainly wanting to, you know, make his mark here on the scene as well.
And his consistency has actually really helped the Renegades, because a lot of the rest of the team is consistent, but the biggest problem, and the one that I think sways maybe the most, you'll see is the front lines here. I mean, Moonchopper, some games will be playing like a Phoenix, and some games be playing like Moonchopper, I guess, when it comes down to it. Just good days, bad days. Same thing can be said for Hero. Some days I look at him and I think this guy is hands down the best frontline we have in the league. And then some days I go back and I think, did I really say that out loud? Am I sure? Do I want to double down on that? And it's just who shows up today out of Renegades. Right.
The Renegades have had their moments for sure. That's kind of always been their story, is that they've like had moments. And that's why it's such a hard team to kind of gauge. It's like one day they're, you know, taking down some of the top seeds in the league, and the next day they're not showing up whatsoever and they're getting 4-0'd. But the Renegades, I think we've sat down with them a ton to, you know, inspect their improvements, you know, kind of dive in there and try and analyze what's going on, what's going better, what have you guys been changing. A lot of that comes down to, you know, leadership, belief in themselves. You know, when you show up and you're not expecting to beat a team, it's kind of one thing. But they did get those couple of critical wins. I'm looking specifically probably at the one against Navi. That gave them a lot of confidence going into this phase. They need to count. These are the types of games that I think you need to win, though. This is a team that is going to be in the play-in bracket. They're not going to make it out top 4.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to beat teams like Kanga so you can enter that play-in bracket with confidence that you'll make it out the other side, right? If you're not beating the teams that are immediately above you in the PPL, you got to be worried about the minor league teams coming in at that point. You don't want to get pented at that point.
Well, I think I saw them Timbermill, Splitstone Quarry, Frog Island, I believe Stone Keep off the board for this one. So we're going to have to see where these teams do want to start it out. It's going to be Frozen Guard. Yeah. So instead of waiting to get to those maps no one knows, maybe throw them right on board. But that's actually where this comes into an interesting discussion. Invocal and Chronix, in my mind, have been picking up Victor a little more often. This is one of the maps that he kind of has his resurgence on.
For sure.
Do you think he becomes maybe a contested point, or is he just kind of thrown to the wayside in favor of some of the other things?
I don't think it's a good point that you bring up, for sure, because Invocal and Chronix, I mean, we just watched Chronix highlight on Victor. We know Invocal loves the character as well. It's a good point, but I don't think it'll be contested super highly in this draft. There's so much else that I think you need to be worried about and looking at in Frozen Guard. And you even got some teams like Virtus Pro, for instance. I'm looking specifically at Fish Echo playing Drogos here, innovating on this map. You know what I mean? Like there's things changing. There's stuff going on in Frozen Guard, and a little bit of a sniper banning out means that, you know, the more snipers that are gone, the more valuable Victor becomes. He plays that role of like a real long range, but still mid-range champion that can and will transition up to close range and frankly be effective. You can pick burst mode and go up and hip fire people, and you're gonna be just fine doing it. Obviously, you're at risk because you're Victor, but your damage is still just as consistent, if not more consistent, and effective from that range.
As it does come through, 2 bands that we're familiar with, Mako and Atlas, along with the Strix you had mentioned, and Khan there. It's kind of opening up the door. I mean, a lot of changes that came through. Some people being able to cancel out of their ult earlier, Fernando getting some shield changes. Like, we've seen kind of the works already
Which
today.
Are
we got a wide versatility.
Amazing changes, by the way. Especially for Immortal. Immortal, you're looking at stuff like snap immunities for Dragon Punches, things like that. Stuff where you just want to maybe snap immunity, a King Bomb to keep everybody safe for the stun. You're so immobile. You're so kind of useless as Fernando when you're immortaling. You can't really, you know, move around or flame a lot of people. You want to be able to cancel that out the second you're done with it and move back to the rest of your kit.
Well, I somehow managed to forget the other champion that was, I think, the most prominent between these two. For Kanga, it'd be Evil Eye. For Kanga, it would be Evil Eye. For Renegades, on the other side, it would, I mean, be anybody. It really is going to be more Invocal, I think, that I've seen be prominent on the main, but Shadow can play it just as well. And she's been very big, but you get this kind of shift of meta, frontline still being high priority, Maeve coming in, this being a good map for her. Is that a difference maker, or is that just a good first start?
I think Maeve is a difference maker, almost for the reasons that we talked about Victor, where it is going to be pretty highly contested across the two players that would play it in this set in particular. And you are looking at Invocal, and you are looking at Evil Eye there. One thing I want from Kanga, just I think in general, is I want Evil Eye to make a statement about who he's going to be as a player for Kanga, maybe even the characters that he's going to play. Flexibility is not a bad thing, but I don't know if I could name... Obviously, we could look up the stats for it, but I don't know if I could name like who his top 3 or 4 characters are that he would just love to play. I think he's been looking for a, kind of a home where you have some of these flex players that will do, not just blasters, but have to do a couple of other things, like for instance, Maeve's, Cassie's, Shaolin's, if you want to, bring up Fisheko, who I think has done some of the best in the business at that main blaster boy. All I do is AoE, transitioning on to other stuff when it's appropriate.
Well, IO right now.
And this has traditionally been one of those maps where it's appropriate to flex.
And locked in there for IO as well. So this is interesting to me because I feel like Renegades are the team I've seen run her the most. And she's pretty much hit maybe a couple maps, but I've seen her primarily on Ice Mines, kind of Invocal running this hybrid heal damage loadout.
Yeah.
I think, and I can't remember if it was Tuesday, Monday, whenever, we saw an IO come through, and you were actually talking about like certain maps that you would love to see her on, where it's just, you know what, plop the Fox over there, and let's just get to fighting, let's get to healing, let's do the job that we need to do. Is this one of those maps?
Not particularly. For me, those maps are, and you can do it anywhere, but Fish Market, Frog Isle a little bit, and I think Serpent Beach are the maps that I like to just be able to dump the Fox on point. And a lot of that is due, and the reason I say it's almost there is because people are starting to move this starting fight. I think it's most valuable when you have A, a point you don't want to fight out in the open on, but B, like Serpent Beach, where the point's not too far out in the open, but the fight all the players are in the same spot basically every time at the start. They fight behind the waterfall, so being able to have a man advantage in a fight that you know a spot, there's going to be a highly contested fight, you can put all 5 players there and dump the Fox, that's where I think it can be valuable.
Well, before this gets locked in, before I say anything about what Kanga are hovering right now, I'll just go over to Renegades. It's triple DPS. It's not too uncommon. I mean, Maeve, Eevee, I think both being on the team is probably the biggest talking point there with the Cassie. But, I mean, from top to bottom, they're looking pretty good. And this is actually a good note. I mean, we've seen Invocal run Maeve. We've seen Shadow run Maeve. We've seen a long time ago, but Moonchopper played DPS, was a very good Eevee, very good Maeve at the time as well. Anybody could really run anything here for Renegades. Yeah,
very flexible comp for the Renegades, and as Buck is being hovered as the last selection here, I see some, merit to it, right? If you've got IO pocketing it, you're giving this Buck movement speed, you're giving this Buck damage reduction, all of the things that he would enjoy having. One last final comment for me on IO and Frozen Guard. During this point fight, you have a large open space on the quote, air quote, heavy air quote, high ground. It's like one staircase. But you could throw people off of this map. I could see, Begone being very useful on Frozen Guard. There's a lot of kill volume off to one side of this map. I mean, imagine even if you don't hit them there, but you could maybe hit them down the pathway, and they're essentially back at their base. There's a lot of interesting angles here that maybe IO will hit. But we'll have to see. I mean, IO coming through is big. Buck coming through, I think, might be bigger. So we're just going to have to go down to the casters and see what their thoughts are on this.
Well, I mean, what literally can be said? I mean, the IO, the Buck, it's already looking extremely good. It's interesting is how I should really phrase that.
I was going to say, I don't know if good is the operative word.
I should phrase it as interesting more so. They're definitely reaching in their bag of tricks here. I mean, they pulled out the IO on Frozen Guard against NIP before, so maybe they figured out something?
I mean, combined with the Buck, it does have some really interesting dive potential. If they do run Goddess's Blessing, 25% damage reduction on Buck. I mean, when he had 40 for 2 seconds, it was good. Stack that deep breath plus the Goddess's Blessing DR. He might be able to get away with some stuff. Unfortunately, that means that Gera is pretty much going to be in the thick of things the entire time that happens. So Renegades triple DPS can force enough distance. I think it could be a really good draft for this map.
I think it could be too, but I mean, I believe you just actually brought it up. Triple DPS on Renegades. We don't see them pull that out as often as some of the other teams that we've seen, like Na'Vi, for example.
Which is kind of surprising to me because I feel like, I mean, they had a DPS flexing to off tank. I mean, that was the switch that got made that people weren't really ready for at first. So it feels like something that would come naturally to them. But for now, actually, interesting build by Gera too. I think Sanctum of Faith is something that a lot of people haven't really seen being run. Carrying a force back a little bit here. A very spread fight, but looks like point control actually on to Kanga on the back of Luna.
Well, there's definitely a fight getting underway here. We already see that Gera's pretty much healing, firing shots, pre-firing around corners to make sure he can get a couple hits here and there, but it doesn't really find anyone yet. 81% already for Kanga, though. Renegades have forfeited pretty much the point. Already trading 1-for-1. Viral and Chronix are both off the board, but it doesn't matter. Kanga managing to catch this point.
Yeah, for sure. Moonchopper finding two, but after the cap had already gone down, and that's really showing what Io will bring to a team, something that really hasn't been explored by a lot of people for now. Also being able to keep Evil Eye alive when he was backing up there from the side. So strong showing from the start for Io, but as those bulldozers and cauterizes come online, things are going to get a little bit tougher. Kanga, though, if they end this game really early, I mean, that could really show the power of their composition, how their identity of being this very flexible team that they're trying to find where they pull out really strange things. It's showing, and it could really start paying off if the set keeps going like this.
Shadow finding one on the Evil Eye, though. It's already looking pretty questionable for Kanga in this case with their push, but Rhino and the rest of them still very, very invested in this fight. They want to show them what they got. Shoulder bash to come in. Actually leaves Invocal looking pretty low, pretty shook, and pretty dead is how I would like to see that. Coming out onto the Mave already. Eevee's the next one to follow. Furia tries to back up, but you can't run away from Leon. A little bit too much auto-aim. In that case, going to be a little bit too powerful for Renegades to deal with.
Renegades just looking a little bit messy over there on the edge. No one able to really get healed up back in time. The Furia bursts were just not going on the right people. I don't think it was necessarily going on the wrong people, but everybody was getting very low, and Furia can't really keep up in that like chaotic everybody needs heals kind of environment where some other healers, you know, Damba can throw a gourd, everyone can kind of group on it. Usually not enough. Inflame, though, coming out here from Renegades. They want to find a kill, but everyone on Kanga's just so far back.
Well, find a kill or stop the push, regardless of what it is they want to do, but the shot coming out from, wait, did he actually hit? Did he hit Eevee with that? Did that be gone?
Yes.
I actually noticed, I was like, wait a minute, hold on, that movement is a little bit weird to see on that Eevee, but Gera, with not only the aim, but the presence of mind to be able to use that, and Vocal finish him off. But man, oh man, talk about a way to get somebody off of you in that case. Begone, truly living up to his name.
Yeah, seriously, that's exactly what I was going to say. Begone, definitely seeing an interesting use there. That's the first time I've ever seen it used in that way. Like, usually people kind of try to use it in that cheesy, I'm going to throw you off the map, haha, get that immediate kill. But just using it straight up so it has more distance, so they're stunned for longer. It's really smart. Resilience will affect it as time goes on. I think you get pulled out of it early, if I correct about that. Haven't played against an IO that hit me with that too much in my games, but I believe it does kind of pull you out a little early. But throwing it up to maximize the duration, really smart by Gera, shows that he has been putting the time into this character. Hanging out back on the objective, and Renegades need to find a pick quickly, or this triple DPS is going to start falling off here on the defense.
No defining kill on either side. Yet the Midnight to try and open up a door opportunity for Renegades in this case. The daggers come through. They do get rid of Gera. That's definitely going to be the start of something for him. More daggers to come through. Now onto Joes. They've swapped the targets. They go for him, but Evil Eye and Rhino don't want to have any of that mess around here for Kanga Esports. They're already pushing it in. The rest of them, Renegades, and Vocal's going to have to try and stall as much as he can, but it's not going to be enough for him as Kanga decided to take it 2-0.
Yeah, Mave definitely not the tankiest target with their tank. With Hero going down, very, very tough for Renegades to stall out that objective. And Kanga even have the chance to kind of back up and regroup. They just drop, you can drop Luna on point, reheal your tanks, and then refight. You're not really forced in those overtime situations to overcommit to the point. And this was that moment I was talking about earlier where Renegades just could not get rehealed. They never had that chance to regroup, and it really hurt them in the end. Kanga's playing so cognizant of this objective time, constantly putting Luna over there because there's really nothing else Luna's going to do.
Right.
Not running lifelink means all she really brings is that little bit of damage, that every 15-second stun, and objective pressure. And that's what Kanga's really focusing on.
Exactly. You already see that the resills are already all across the board on Kanga's side. I mean, literally all of them have resil to be able to counter out a lot of that Pyre Strikes, those stuns, the Midnight, so on and so forth, man. I mean, they're looking to play, and they're also looking to win in this case. Already putting, I believe, Luna already on the point, which is allowing the rest of them to be a little bit more aggressive. No defining kill, but an Ice Storm actually follows up, and Vocal's going to find that kill on the Joes, though. Obviously, the Ice Storm opened up enough of an opportunity for Renegades to catch this kill.
Normally, that would be a much bigger factor, but Cap Time still coming in. They got Joel's, but not the Fox. Luna still 69% on the objective now. Assert Dominance going into the backline, too, allows Kanga to keep the foot on their throat. 2 more picks for them, and everything's going Kanga's way.
The Enlightenment that comes through doesn't find anything, actually hits the ice block, but it doesn't even matter, dude. The point still goes into Kanga's favor in this case. I mean, they managed to just leave Luna on that point. Renegades has not been dealing with it, and that's literally why they ended up capping it twice already.
Oh, no. Everyone's going to start playing IO in my casual spawn.
Oh,
no, if it keeps going like this. But no, still, this is really solid play from them. I love their super healthy composition between Barrack, Ash, and Buck, plus the DR from IO. So hard to get any kills on Renegades' side. These flanks, they need to go in and find something, right? You need to go in, and you can't leave without a kill. When it takes that long to kill something, you're always going to be the one to go down. Such a small health pool across the board for Renegades. Yeah, I mean, Heroes and Nara, he has that going for him, but that's it. The other characters are the ones who are going to be committing. Otherwise, it's kind of just Hero staring down Luna, seeing who blinks first.
Yeah, I mean, already to reset a little bit of those cooldowns for Maeve. Vocal definitely wants to try and make sure he can not only find an opening for his team, but to try and get a kill. So that way, like you said, foot on throat for Kanga in this case. I mean, they really don't have any chance to breathe here. We're already pre-sub 10-minute game, and we're already in the same scenario we were in before with Rhino getting the first kill on the Shadow during this fight. It's going to be big. A nice headshot from Buck, and he does end up whittling Heroes health down to nothing, allowing Joes to take up the kill. Evil Eye, Joes, both of them finding 2 of their own. Kanga take the first game, pre-10-minute game.
That was one of the fastest Frozen Guards I've ever seen. Normally you see at least 1 defense. That is a very defensively sided little hold you can do on that high ground, but Renegades having only 1 backline made it very tough for them to keep putting that damage on the point. Too hard for them to find a single pick with all that sustain on Kanga.
I mean, you mentioned it before, Kresnik, you're going to start seeing IOs in your casuals. How do you feel about seeing the return of Buck? How do you feel about that?
That is definitely interesting, and it shows how long Evil has been playing this game.
Yeah.
I mean, Buck had some times in the spotlight. That's when he got played a lot back with that old. As soon as they figured out the bulk up build with Deep Breath and the rapid sustain, all that, that's when he kind of shone. And now combined with IO, I mean, it's showing that strength again. Buck is good when he can't die. When he can commit and get out for free, that's when he's going to be good. And paired with IO, it's just too hard to take him down.
Yeah, I mean, hard to take down indeed. Just like Kangaroo Jack, Kanga in this case actually do end up taking game 1 over Renegades already. Frozen Guard already in the books, but we're going to have to see where we're going to be heading and also how game 2 fares right after this break.
Respawn, the official gaming chair of the Paladins Premier League.
Back when they were on you, wasn't easy, but I held your ground. Still I get nothing honest from you. Excuse me, but I won't buy into your big lie. No need to bother me.
Well, the players are racing to see who maybe could have the fastest set out of the day. Is it Na'Vi? Or is it going to be Kanga, who find themselves up now 1-0 over the Renegades? And Nick, I mean, Buck, IO, they both come through, they both win, and they were very controlling.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to kind of break down there and that I liked about Kanga's draft. But, you know, integrating the new character, I think that, you know, the unique things that she brings is so much fun to watch. IO, I really hope she does find a place in the meta, not only to kind of shake up what the supports bring. I think more or less we've had the same kind of supports. Recently, I would say Fury has kind of stepped in for Maldamba, but for the most part, the supports stagnate a little bit. I think, there's definitely some room for a new support to come in with Io bringing, inarguably, I think, the most unique mechanic of the support class in Luna. She really, really has a place in this meta.
It'd be interesting, and this is just speculation now at this point, but if Ying ever got that kind of capability, what would happen with her? But as of right now, she's fine. We're going to leave her all alone as we look at it. 7-2-7 for Rhino, 4-2-8 for Joel's, but it was Evil Eye on the Buck. This was the big swing for them, and he came out with a 3.2 KDA.
Look at this. Just look at this team fight right now. Look at Rhino. Look at Evil Eye. They're so deep in the backline of the Renegades together, though. You know what I mean? When you have this composition that's everyone's like prime directive is the same thing, like just to dive and go ham, you know what I mean? And when you have somebody there, it makes, you introduce decision making for the Renegades. They have to decide whether to focus Evil Eye, whether to focus Rhino on Ashe. Both of those characters can get out and effectively absorb a ton of damage. So very difficult and very frantic team fights wherein Kanga strike first and more aggressively, and they just kind of bulldoze over a lot of these.
And the thing that makes me happy about seeing that work, I guess, for Evil Eye more is just one of the biggest talking points that I've had personally for him is inconsistency, really good at Maven Eevee, but you never know if you're going to get the top performance out of him. If you start pushing him onto maybe other champions, he has them in his pocket, but they don't function as well. Having Buck come out and make that kind of loud of a statement, that's a really, really good start for him and for Kanga, as they take that one 4-0. And now they get to go to a map that, while Frozen Guard is one I think either team could take, this one is notoriously Kanga to me.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think taking the Renegades map pick that convincingly, that's one hell of a way to start, and with a statement from Kanga. Now, they do have to kind of keep their eyes on the prize here, make sure they're getting good drafts each game. So much of Paladins comes down to the draft, and whether or not you can get a good one. Kanga just did, for sure. Frozen Guard is no strange place to them. But they have to keep it up for another 3 wins in this best of 7.
And I think the big question mark for me that will remain on everyone's mind depends on how this game goes, I think, for either team. But Renegades, who first split kind of conquered and mastered Ice Mines, second split still kind of seem to be the team that understands it maybe towards the best, not the best of them all, but at least up there in ways that they can take it off of teams like Kanga. Still available in the map pool for them to potentially go into later. But right now, it's the same 4 bans, I believe, coming through. Maybe a little bit of change there for the Willow. But Alice, Makoa, Khan, all kind of joining her and showing the precedent that is tanks right now.
Unsurprising bans for sure. Especially Willow is like on the maps that she's good, mostly everywhere, but on the map she's very, very strong. I'm thinking Bright Marsh, and frankly even here, anywhere where you're sitting the majority of the time shooting down, and on Warder's Gate it's not even that high, right? But it's just that small little angle. You really don't need a lot of angle to work with as Willow just to be able to splash your damage onto the enemy characters. And the reason that's so important is that meta talent Blast Flower. It doesn't matter, you don't have to hit anyone direct. You could hit them as far as physically possible, and you will still gain that stack of Blast Flower, which means your next shot, again, even if you miss it, is going to do that extra bit of damage.
And are unwanted, stranger.
We come through. Tanks being the name of the game so far. Barrack, Nara, Ashe. Which does leave open some options there for Kanga. I think it's been so interesting these last couple of weeks, only because more frontline picks have kind of burst into viability. I mean, Knight's showing that Terminus is an option. Ruckus kind of, I think, being more relatable now with this update. And just like certain things that have fallen off, or had fallen off, now can kind of show back up, and maybe players are looking more closely at them.
Ruckus players are feeling really good about the changes from what I can tell. You can look at it and just feel it, that the dash has come out so much cleaner, so much crisper. And sometimes it's hard to say when you're using adjectives like clean or crisp, or it doesn't feel good, or this thing feels bad in a game. It's tough to iron those things out sometimes because it is so subjective, but I think the dev team has hit the nail on the head with a lot of these quality of life, cancel these ultimates, don't consume your energy unless the animation, the pre-fire goes completely off. This stuff seems small, but boy does it make a difference, because I get so pissed when, especially these Grok Tempest, my Andro Cursed Arms, before I even think about hitting the button, my energy's gone, and I can be taken out of the air completely. a lot of that stuff is just gone. It's just so many feels-good changes in this Pirate Treasure Trove patch.
And that was actually one of the things that I think, looking forward. Androx is having his change, where the charges are now more, akin to a Barrage or the Exile, where he kind of keeps it. And I'm just like, someone, at some point this week, in my mind, for the PPL, there's just going to be that pocket strat of like, well, we're going to lock in Andrew Torvald
that's
right
not
here,
a bad
right
idea.
now,
That's not a bad
just
idea.
do it.
I don't know. I thought with the changes to Curse Cylinder and making his ult a little bit easier to get some guaranteed value for, I thought we might see more of him, but it's not looking like that way in particular. And on a character like Andro, we talk about this sometimes with like Lex. There are Andro players out there waiting to play Andro. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's a ton of Lex players like chomping at the bit, because he's never really been in the meta, so there's not a wide breadth of competitive players that I think have that in the back pocket. But Andro has had his day in the sun. And
Mutu, actually, the reason they needed to go so fast for Na'Vi was they had to go back and re-download all the Andro plays for him just to make sure that he can keep his Androxus up there. But we were able to speak at least one of these into existence so far, Ruckus being hovered. And, well, Io did so well last time. Gera, I mean, he's always kind of been at the forefronts of support. This year was one of the first years that he hasn't really been one of the huge talking points in that role.
Definitely.
But right now, he's making strides with Io that I think we haven't gotten to see from many other teams. If this game goes well, that's a little unprecedented.
Vex got the first win in the PPO with Io, but Gera may be looking to make Io his own. Back-to-back picks for him. Looked impactful, not in the damage department, but she really doesn't do a lot of damage. She does, I think, have a good, strong enough, consistent auto. It's almost like old-school Cassie auto attacks if you guys played back in the day when Cassie used to have the bow.
Her old-school weapon.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like the bow. The bolt flies a little bit slower than Cassie's current bolts, I think. Doesn't do quite as much damage. But again, a resource-based healer, super unique mechanics in terms of having a deployable pet that can capture and push payloads. Doesn't need to buy Chronos, something that's kind of a crutch for every other support. And maybe crutch isn't the right word. It's like it's just your best item. It's increasing your throughput by the most versus anything else you could buy. But Io doesn't need it. She can go straight into offensive items. And with that weapon, and 450 is a decent number to scale off for stuff like Wrecker, too. So all good stuff for Io.
Well, being able to come through Cassie, Maeve, Furia, Ashe, and Nara on the other side for Renegades. I mean, this is a Kanga map, but do you feel like this draft is going to give them some advantage on Warder's Gate?
I think Evil Eye shows up on Eevee. Again, that element of having Ruckus and this time it's Eevee and Ruckus versus Buck and Ashe from last game. But those characters diving together, I think there's a lot of good stuff coming Kanga's way.
We'll have to see if they're going to be able to knock this one out of the park or not. Let's jump down to the casters.
Well, we can easily say in this game, at least in this set, that Kanga has been the team that's picked Io the most out of anyone in the PPL already.
Yeah, and it shows how much they've been practicing with it. Some teams are kind of afraid to break out these new champions in practice, or maybe they do it in practice, and then as soon as it comes down to game day, they're like, yeah, but everyone's playing Damba, so let's play Damba.
Yeah.
Like everyone's kind of afraid to make that happen. And Kanga, they're not afraid. We know that from before. They were the teams playing that triple DPS into triple tank, some really weird stuff, and I'm happy to see this. My prediction as they were going in was that they would take Furia to force Renegades onto Genos, but they just they want their own pick outside of counter-drafting Renegades, and I think that's kind of just indicative of the mindset they have in all of these drafts.
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, already Joe's on the point, sitting at 30%. Now the Renegades are going to decide to go in. They want to soften up Jones just a little bit to make sure they can force him off of the point. Hero actually jumping down to get a few more hits in. Chronix does find the kill, though, and the Shadow and Vocal managing to trade out their healer, though. So, I mean, in this point, in this case, Kanga already looking a little bit weaker than normal in Vocal. Oh, okay. All right. I was scared. Sorry.
He had a double jump. It was definitely scary. It happens. And Kanga kind of just going down all over the map. They're playing a little chaotic, and that makes things really hard for Gera to find anyone to heal all over the place. Rhino, though, finding Hero, kind of trading off the point. Cap time going towards Kanga because of Luna. Again, so powerful, especially when Renegades just isn't prioritizing this objective.
Gera's just waiting in the back. Of course, you see him healing every now and again. He'll fire a few shots here and there. Of course, that stun that Luna's going to be able to provide is going to mean a lot for anyone trying to contest. At this point, literally no one's there. They tried to dive into the back line, but really, Joe's turned around to make sure that Gera would be okay, and even then, the damage from Io was enough. So you see that Gera got the kill on Moonchopper, and Joe's finds one to both.
Luna stunned through the crack on the point.
Did she really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Luna came through the crack on the point to stun the Maeve diving Gera. That's why Gera won that 1v1. That little angle, I mean, all that matters is line of sight. There's line of sight through that little crack, and it was just enough to keep him alive. That's what got him that win, and kind of what gave Kanga that win altogether. Just saving their healer and having so much more utility. Compared to the other, actually, I do find the loadout that Gera had interesting. If he's running the same one, his Moonlight is regenerating really quickly. He's able to kind of get back in and heal a lot more than some other supports would be able to. Moonchopper in the back, though, going to trade him out. So, no heals up for Kanga, but he might have to take advantage if Moonchopper goes down as well.
Yeah, already he's trying to dance around that shield as much as he can, but of course you can only dance for so long before you end up getting tired. He gets picked off thanks to Chronix. But however, Hero finding a double as Shadow with one, making it technically 2 doubles. Hero gets double, Shadow gets a double, and we're already looking at the fact that Kanga now is away from the point, and now Renegades have a chance to breathe.
Yeah, Renegades, though, spent Inflame to defend that. They still have 4 ultimates up relatively soon. I mean, Midnight and Assert Dominance, both really strong. And look at how they're playing there. Actually, great airshot by Evil Eye onto Invocal, forcing him out. And actually, Rhino managed to chase him down and get the kill, so the flank for Renegades is so far forward, and they're going to go down for it.
Right, yeah, I mean, Moonchopper just being in a bad spot at a bad time, so Shonen Bash his way out of there, but he's just going to get up getting body blocked and picked off. Both Maeve and Asher down. Maeve just respawning, but Evil Eye already taking the high ground here. Of course, he's going to be firing back into their spawn, blinking in, blinking out, thanks to Wormhole. But at the same time, Kanga is pushing in. They've got Begone. They've got the Dome Shield. They've got the Flashbang. They've got the Hexafire. And Renegade's got 4 in response.
I'm really curious if Gera has figured out like these Begone angles. I think it's probably taken some time, but right now that's not the story. The story is this pressure from the side off of the Midnight.
Ooh.
Though Invocal goes a little bit too far and gets traded out by Chronix.
Luckily, Gera's in the back, able to heal Chronix back up and taking a few shots from Renegades at this point. We already see it here in the slash lines. 4 and 2, 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 for both Evil Eye and Gera in this case. But 2 and 1 and 5 and 1 respectively for Joes and Chronix. I mean, Kanga, literally, how could you ask for a better play from them from just this game right here?
I mean, and they not only did they convert that, but they took multiple ultimates out of Renegades. I mean, Renegades used Seismic Crash at Midnight to try to make something happen, but just could not deal with the angles that the DPSs on Kanga were taking. Great pressure from Evil Eye. Chronix coming in on that right side to get an even deeper angle, and they literally didn't use a single thing. They still have all of it for this mid. Fortunately for Renegades, though, all those resources don't really mean too much considering the ultimates that they're holding on to. I mean, Hexafire, Begone, Flashbang, Ice Storm, not really the most impactful ultimates across the board. Begone, I mean, Dome Shield definitely is a huge one, I think, but the other ones, they take some level of setup. And having 4 setup ultimates is going to make it really hard to actually find something with them. They have no real follow-up on them.
I agree entirely. We already see that Joe's already on the point. Renegades have been forfeiting this point pressure a lot throughout these games. The Begone comes through to try and counteract, I believe, a push in the back line, but it's a little bit too much for both Invocal and it's a little bit too much for Chronix and Gera to be able to capitalize on. The Inflame comes out. Evil Eye finds a kill on the Shadow, though, which is the first break in red for Kanga.
And they needed to be ready for that pressure. Kanga kind of just let them get wrapped around. Now Cap's going to Renegades, double comebacks to make this very easy for them, but they got off the point, or was Luna on the point? Really hard to tell. Luna is on the point, actually capping on top of Hero's wall. So Hero wasn't able to get as much cap time as he would have. Begone not on the table, but everything else up for Kanga. And the objective is pretty on their side, especially with this Dome Shield coming in and Rhino finding a flank onto Viral.
Wow, a double kill for him is going to set Kanga up to be able to continue to capture this point. Hero's the next one in their sights, and they already take care of 4. One of them still alive and Vocal, just trying to wait quietly, but they already know where he is. They know he's down there. They want to be able to keep an eye out for him. Rhino getting a lot of damage onto him. He's going to be able to go down thanks to Gera. Io and Luna combined will be enough to take care of him. And already another point capture. I mean, I don't know what to say, man. I mean, this is the second time Io's brought out for Kanga, and it's working.
This is my favorite part in a meta, when a team figures out exactly how a new championship is used. As soon as like everything just clicks, it's so great to watch. Look at this aggression from Rhino in the back. Goes down to Viral, and Moon used that Assert Dominance, and it will get them a lot of ground here. Joel's going down after trading with Hero. But Kanga, they're far back. They still have a few ultimates. They could use an Ice Storm, execute onto someone if they so choose. It's definitely an option they have. Chronix, I think if anything, Kanga will play a little bit slow. They're either going to wait for Chronix to find a pick, or they're just going to send Rhino and Evil Eye to somebody and get what they can, but it looks like Renegades want to be the ones setting the pace here.
Midnight already being used to make sure that Renegades can afford to be able to push up as hard as Invocal is in this case. He does find one onto their healer though, which that's going to be pretty big. More daggers to come out onto Rhino. He's in a bad spot, but already 2 for 2 trade for both Kanga and Renegades. Evil Eye making that one less as even, but Invocal following up soon after that. Now his focus is on Joel's. Now he's trying to get the daggers up of the turret, as well as a nicely timed arrow from Gera are going to net a kill and a continual push for this payload.
That shows why Barrack is just so good. It's so hard to 1v1 a Barrack that's just playing around his shield really properly. And Invocal played that almost perfectly. I mean, he was playing above the shield, so Jules didn't have as many options. He was pouncing on both sides of it when he wasn't able to stay above it just to force Jules into an uncomfortable position. But it's so hard to kill a Barrack that's playing right, especially when he's getting that 25% DR heal right near the end of it. I love how Kanga's adapting to this too. They know what Renegades are trying to do, so they have Evil Eye playing in the back, and he catches out Moonchopper on the flank.
The shoulder bash to try and go in with Invocal, but Evil Eye is more than enough to handle 2 puny humans trying to fight against this man currently. In this case, Evil Eye finds 2 kills, a double already. With that being said and done, it already looks like Kanga is going to be able to push this one in for a second game.
Potentially, Dome Shield on the point. Hexifier did a lot of damage, and he gone into the stun, pushes Moon off the point. Dash will make it back in the last second, but he has no health left.
The awareness from Gera to be able to use that Be Gone to set him up on high ground. He can't show to charge his way back onto the point. I love to see type of stuff like that.
I mean, he was trying to knock him off the map. Let's be.
Well, yeah, true, but it still worked out.
Yeah, it did. I mean, Be Gone, such a good knock. It's basically an overpower that's with 1 projectile.
Yeah.
It's an overpower that if you miss it, you're not an overpower, sorry. It's a hyper beam that if you miss it, it's just going to be bad. I mean, you're going to get nothing out of it. Hyper beam has like that fallback of, well, it's just a bunch of little particles that are coming out constantly. Be Gone. If you miss it, it's over. But you can't move out of it. Yeah, but Gera, perfect positioning on that. And really good adaptation by Kanga. I mean, Renegades was kind of tearing them apart a little bit in those stalemate fights where they put both players through the back. Evil Eye waited for it, got the picks, and it completely snowballed.
Well, I mean, snowball they did. 2-0 already, looking pretty good for Kanga in the IO pick. Something none of us expected to see today, and they are making it work. We'll have to see how they continue their reign of terror, or if Renegade is able to come back right after this break.
SteelSeries, the official peripheral provider of the Paladins Premier League.
Well, it may be the year of the pig, but Kanga are trying to herald in the age of the kangaroo as they take game number 2 there. And a pretty convincing fashion.
How do you know that?
I was Googling it while we were walking over here. That's why I had to ask you again what players we were talking about, because I wasn't listening to that conversation. I was very focused
Gore
in on
setting
my
up my
only
next
joke.
pun for the desk. Don't mind me. Who won? Quang? Okay.
It's Kang as they came through, and it did come down to, I'm tripping over my words once again, to Evil Eye, to Rhino, kind of opening up a lot of space one more time.
It's so much fun to watch this composition as a whole, right? You've got a lot of Rhino and Evil Eye diving together. Hell, even Joel's is getting in there, right? He's bringing some of the heat there with the Tinkering rifle. But the cool thing, again, about this super unique mechanic for IO is that normally line of sight healers, I guess I should say, are left behind to capture the point. Line of sight healers, aka anybody but Genos, struggle with that because they can't be effective. So you're out there fighting 4v5 on your zone, blah, blah, blah. as a line of sight healer, she can leave the Fox on the point and go do her thing. This dive, that much stronger when it's being healed, damage reductionized for Evil Eye and for Rhino. When the dive is stronger, that means Chronix isn't under pressure on Strix, so he can do more damage. And when Chronix is doing more damage, that means people are even less likely to make it to him, so that this dive is gonna go better.
I mean, I was sitting around waiting for like Torvald plus flank pocket strats that would come through, like bring in some of the DPS maybe we don't see too often. I am perfectly fine watching this team who has figured out how IO is going to work and is using it to facilitate what their team already does incredibly well here. And Kanga, I mean, they seem to have IO on lockdown. 2 maps in a row is enough for me to be able to kind of give her the okay that they have figured out whatever makes her tick and can apply it to anywhere.
It's almost like she brings, you know, you used to split compositions kind of, or even teams into 2 schools. One, you had like your Navis that would just all point all the time, doesn't matter if everybody feeds, if we win the game, doesn't matter. Then you had your NIPs who were just gas pedal all the time, doesn't matter if anybody has any capture time, we need to kill everybody until there's no one left to contest us on the point. We don't have a good comp to do it, but if there's no one there to contest us, what does it matter? IO brings like kind of both worlds. She throws the Fox, and then all 5 of you can go in, right? And you're getting that cap, but you're also 5-man aggressive.
And, well, they've been able to showcase it 2 maps in a row. And, well, I mean, that's enough for me to be able to say that they're looking pretty good. And lo and behold, I might have called it towards the beginning of last one, Ice Mines, a map, again, kind of notorious for Renegades locking it down, but with a bunch of champions that, in my mind, favor Kanga here, all available. We'll have to see how the bans go. Maybe IO's proven prominent enough that either Renegades try to scoop it away, or they might ban it.
I do remember when we did the Champion Spotlight video with all the supports that Viral was one of kind of honestly the few that was like, yeah, I think there's something there. There's ways to work this character in. There's things she can do, obviously, that others can't. There's a lot of spicy plays you can make. But I don't know if Ice Mines is her map. She's got a lot of range, heavily-ish. You know, she was slightly changed, I think, to accommodate for line-of-sight breaking. But this is probably one of the most line-of-sight heavy points in the game, so you're looking much more towards things like Grover's to heal up this area if you can. Grover's been extremely popular on Ice Mines as of late, and I think for good reason. And there's a lot of other stuff to worry about in the ban section. Hence the Drogoz ban. There's a couple of things that are super popular here. Combustible is one of them, where it supersedes Wormjets. Even after the effectiveness nerf, I still think you'll see Wormjets on the maps you saw Wormjets on. I still think you'll see Combustible on the maps you saw Combustible on before. I think that was more of a broad stroke change for maybe for the casual player base to be able to work in a couple of other things, because at a competitive level, Drogoz already had all of his options open.
Well, Kanga, I was wondering what option they were going to go with. My mind was on Pip to see if you could maybe control Shadow a little more, since, well, 2 blasters were already taken care of. But it is the Victor down there. Both Makoa, Atlas available, and, well, pretty much every tank, not pretty much, every tank but Khan will be open going into this.
We're only getting started.
And so with Atlas locked in, presumably going to Moonshopper, performance is going to kind of come to question as to whether or not he can make it work.
Yeah, man, that's a big thing, because you absolutely can't let young Rhino get that. Makoa is still open, though, so Kanga do have the option to grab at least one premier frontliner. See, now once Makoa's locked in, you've got Ashe, Inara, Barrack. You've got enough options to where I don't think you need to rush to grab the next one, because Renegades also only need one other frontline pick. I do think it's safe to say both these teams will run double frontline here on Ice Mines, but picking up the Bomb King, we saw some Invocal highlights from it. Frankly, Shadow can play it as well.
Yeah.
Evil Eye can play this. And I think Evil Eye, before I even knew his face, man, he made a name for himself on this character. I have a super old memory of him playing it on this map as well. It's like all that matters is this tiny little area on Ice Mines around the point that's almost akin to like a Jaguar Falls, and that being, I think, Bomb King's best map. This is also an area in which Bomb King can be very successful.
We've seen it in the past. I mean, when Pip was kind of on the rise here, Bomb King was used to maybe counter him out a little bit. And this time around, he's going to get picked up prior. Cassie, very, very, very balanceable, I guess, coming down. It could go to Shadow, could go to Invocal, being kind of like malleable is the word I wanted to say, where you could come through and anybody can really play her. as she is there with the Inara, leaving Barrack open for Kanga, who has been very, very kind to them if they do want to go for him as their point tank.
Yeah, Barrack's been super good for them. Cassie, like you mentioned, a great pick for the Renegades. Very good against Makoa, the highest HP frontliner in the game, as well as Inara, who is not quite the highest in terms of raw health, but in terms of effective health via damage reduction and healing amp, she is indisputably the highest health front line when you factor in the rest of the kit there. So far, so good for Kanga. Strix, despite this really being not a super long-range point fight, it's just long enough and just, I guess, not necessarily the length of the line of sight, but that it's hard to dive people on the Ice Mines point fight, right? Like, there's not a lot of ways to go, meaning any way you choose, there's probably enemy players there, so you can't just walk past people and get to Strix. There's really not a lot of ways to get to him uncontested.
Just being able to kind of sit back there. The biggest question on my mind, without Victor, maybe what Invocal wants to do, or vice versa, what they want to do with Shadow. And all right now, Renegades are hovering the potential triple front line, which this is not a map that is not used to it, but it is not something that we've gotten as used to seeing lately.
Form up and follow
I wonder
me
if they're going to run Solar Blessing here. Typically one of the stronger options for triple frontline. But I don't know, man. It's really not been run in a long time. I think Furious has a low enough cooldown, and they're choosing this, right? Typically, you do want some type of damage amp when you run triple frontline, whether that's Hunting Party, whether that's Inflame in this case. But frontliners do good damage. I would say not quite enough to be able to just hit the gas pedal and convincingly bulldoze a team fight. With 30% extra damage and movement speed, sure, you're staying in range. Frontliners typically have a shorter effective range. So if you can apply that 30% damage bonus and make sure that your fall-off curve is not coming into the equation, you're in a much better spot.
Well, Grover locked in last but not least there for Kanga.
A little chain reaction maybe, Gore?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they go with for this. I mean, Atlas hits hard as it is, so a damage to Atlas is a pretty chunky shot that will come out of him. But do you think that the Bomb King Strix is going to be enough damage with the Makoa to take down? I think it'll be
okay. Barrack's good. I mean, Barrack and Makoa are very high damaging frontliners in my personal opinion. Strix is nuts. I mean, I think even more so with triple frontline, you're going to have trouble diving him and getting in his face, so he's going to be chipping you, from across the map. And then if Chain Reaction Bomb King goes well, Kanga have this.
Well, we'll have to see, I guess, if exactly Evil Eye is going to run the Chain Reaction where he's
chain
going
reaction
to go.
Or no balls.
It's going to look incredibly good for them. Kanga trying to get this one up 3-0. Renegades trying to get on the board. Let's see what they have.
Well, we're looking at Ice Mines right now, folks, and Bomb King to be able to close out a lot of those little flanks and those lot of rooms and doorways. I'm excited to see it. We only see him brought out on specific maps. I've said that before, but at the same time, it is true. He's fallen off.
Yeah, and I think this was definitely a prime time to pick him. Looks like Evil Eye has been castrated picking Royal Subjects here. Unfortunate for him. No way to run that chain reaction. It could have been good. I liked what Nick was saying with that, especially combined with Makoa. You can combo, put a couple of sticks on the ground. Makoa gets a hook, pulls him into that. Not going to be running that. Royal Subjects a little bit more consistent for that corner pressure, not really letting people hide. And I think not letting them get healed up on a Furia who has that very bursty heal is pretty important. We can already see some aggression. Vocal on the action with Hero both pushing through this barn side.
Already, they're trying to be more aggressive, but they've eaten more shots than they can take. They're already being forced back in this case. And Vocal, the first one to go down, first blood already for Kanga, being aggressive, but being a little bit too greedy. They do get picked off first, and already Chronix and now the rest of Kanga are going to be able to be sitting pretty.
Kanga ended up with a really good draft to deal with this triple tank. We know how good Makoa can be against these triple tank compositions. You kite back. Stunning them for that one moment is enough for you to get the kill. And Joel's actually maybe a little bit too forward, but if they can get this trade on Vocal, it just might be worth it.
Shield goes down for Makoa to try and back up. Allows Grover a little bit more time to not only poke, but to make sure that he stays alive. Once again, Evil Eye just pretty much holding this little room right here. Throwing out Polybomb, throwing out Grumpy Bomb, Inflame to come out to make sure they can do what they can. But the stun, timed with Grumpy Bomb, timed with goodness gracious. Can Hero move at all? Can he get a chance to at least play the game without many stunts? He just got hit with twice in a row. He's already looking down, has to back up what looked like a fight that could have been in Renegade's favor, or at least their starting point has just ended up being the finish line.
So much burst damage coming in from Evil Eye onto Hero, but I mean, that's the life of a tank. He survived through all of that. I mean,
Yeah.
you take all that BK damage, you take that King Bomb CC and still walk away, but it's just not enough for them to convert. And now Kanga in a good position. This is where the Strix is definitely going to be a lot stronger in these really open sight lines, especially into triple tank. As long as they can keep this Ashe from landing these assert dominances, it's going to be so hard for Renegades to keep this payload contested.
33,000 damage already from Bomb King. And Evil Eye already scaled up so well. A good snipe. Netted first to make sure that Chronix pushed all the way back, but he's just going to end up regrouping. Grumpy Bomb to go out. More bombs to come through. Seismic crash. You are not welcome here. Yes, I am, says Evil Eye as he poppy bombs his way out of that danger and throws a couple more out. And Vocal dive into the back, but he's just going to be focused fire down, and Renegades are trying to fight their hardest, but they can't find an opening.
It's so hard for them to cross these gaps, and one thing about this triple tank, they don't have any of those characters that you would expect a DPS to flex to.
Right.
You see triple tank, great
goodness.
trap by Evil
That was
Eye
so
catching
good.
Moonchopper on that retreat. DR has to come out from Hero to let him get away, but so much pressure up top from Kanga. If they can find another pick and get Chronic set up on these long sight lines leading into the spawn, they're not really going to have a chance. But what I was saying before, they don't have anyone that can easily be flexed to by Invocal, so he has to go to a very different champion for him on this Ashe, and it's definitely not going that well. So tough for him to find any kills when you're not used to doing that little damage.
Renegades really just used the Inflame to try and find their way in. They do get the kill on the Chronix, but it was more so used defensively. Gara and Evil Eye, everyone wants a piece right now. Gara throwing out the axes. Call him the lumberjack, dude. He's chopping everybody down, chucking these axes. Moonchopper goes down. Now Hero's forced back. He's throwing out these bombs from Evil Eye. He just has to eat so many of them based off of their positioning.
I don't want to believe I just watched a Grover get 2 melee kills more or less against 2 tanks. But it happened. They were low, and Invocal doesn't land the assert dominance.
Man.
Great by Rhino to catch him on the way out. And everyone on Kang is kind of holding back, but they have the first pick. They can play this slow. They have the range.
Grumpy Bomb being thrown out once again to not only to try and get a stun, but to zone him out. Hero's eating so much, but he's living for so long thanks to the healing from Furia. The assert dominance right off the point. Moonchopper. No, Invocal, I'm sorry. No!
And that kind of plays into what I was saying. They have 3 tanks, but not tanks that you're comfortable playing as a DPS player. And Vocal might not have known how to do the vertical ult. You look straight up, and that's how you land where you start your assert dominance cast. He didn't know. He just ended up slightly off it, loses the ultimate, and they lose the point for it.
Yeah, I mean, you just hate to see that happen where he tries to stall the very last second. Now they don't have a certain dominance coming into this next round, man. I don't know how that's gonna end up looking for them. Now that they definitely needed that one. They have Inflame though. They can still fight back, but man, that's disheartening. I hate to see that.
I mean, he's bottom damaging. I mean, right under Rhino, who's just above him, but 15k after that round is definitely going to be rough. They have the ultimates, but assert dominance so crucial here. Such good control, I think, so far coming in from Kanga as well. Temporal Divide going to make it a little harder for them to find Poke, plus the Inflame coming in, but they're a little out of sync. That Divide's not going to be up for the time the Inflame comes in.
Dome Shield's already zoning out people on the right. We already see that Evil Eye's throwing out a lot of those bombs, and Vocal has to find a way to charge his way back out. Fire Strike ends up stunning Evil Eye, but there you can't stop him from pushing, man. They're already making sure that they got the zone going. They're leaving Chronix on the point here. Ancient Rage is still up. The rest of Renegades have to, it's like they're conceding, but good wall. The earthbending a little bit too strong on the NAR side.
It's going to force out the Ancient Rage, though, right in their face. No real way to deal with it is the composition of Renegades. He does go down, but look how much time he bought. Invocal will have to dash, but I don't think he'll make it in time.
No, he's not going to. He hits the wall just as that happens. He wouldn't have made it anyway, but still, the fact that he just ends up just slightly mistiming that too means that it still would have been a very, very bad spot. They still would have been able to capture that point.
Evil Eye, I don't know what you ate this morning, but do it every single time you have a game day.
My goodness.
Basically 30k damage ahead of Shadow on the Cassie, doing so much. I think it is also partially because he's going into triple tank. There's a lot of targets that are going to be soaking a lot of damage, and they can't really contest him. It's almost a free game for him. Temporal Divide here, going to buy a little bit of room. He's just going to back up, though. They can wait it out. I think that's the right play against that Atlas cooldown. There's really no other counterplays here.
Failsafe, who's pretty much using it to make sure he can escape in that situation, gets healed right back up. Hero and Makoa being fused. I mean, they're really just, they're fighting on the side here, but the Inflame, dude, the fact that it went out, no one can push in because of how much pressure they're applying. Evil Eye flying all the way back, but a good shot from Shadow is going to leave him dead, but Kara gets the kill onto Moonchopper. They get the kill onto Invocal. The axes are coming out, and now Renegades has to walk back to their base.
In such a long sightline, too, so Chronix will basically be able to free fire for quite a while here. Shadow might be able to find him, but it's really all on him. Invocal trying to take it into his own hands, but Mr. Dominance does barely make it. Perfectly saved by Rhino, though, so now Invocal, once that runs out, is kind of on an island. Luckily for him, Moonchopper does come in at the last second to save him. Kanga, though, no picks on either side. I think they're still in a good place here.
I agree, too. I mean, they still have the Dome Shield. They still have the Flashbang. Of course, you don't see that as often, but the Dome Shield, if that's placed properly, you definitely can make sure that Renegades don't have anywhere to go or can't even really walk forward. But I mean, yeah, you're correct, Kresnik. They're pretty much just sitting pretty right now. They're not pushing in. They're not being too aggressive, and I like to see it. I like to see this sort of like lame game.
The longer it takes, the better I think it is for Kanga's composition. The triple tank really want to force it. Exile getting forced out here, but just hitting shields and Vocal going down is disastrous. I think for Renegade, Seismic Crash only finds Rhino, but look at the positioning on everyone else. They just caught Moonchopper and they're pushing in main.
That's absolutely crazy. Evil Eye and Chronix both find 2 kills on their own. The shoulder bash, Vocal trying to get out of there, but he still ends up getting picked. And now we're throwing out the King Bomb. We're throwing out the Dome Shield. Stun, and Vocal cannot move it. He's out of range of the point. Kanga already with a 3. Oh my goodness, dude.
Kanga with a 12-0 right now.
Yeah, good point, actually.
Not a point taken by Renegade so far, and it really is on the back of fantastic drafting, I think, by Kanga. Yeah. On these maps that Renegades are picking, Kanga just know exactly what the answer is going to be to their composition.
I mean, we've seen the BK, we've seen the Buck, we've seen the IO. Kanga just doesn't seem like their draft is probably one of the most flexible ones I've ever seen so far, at least today, at least for today.
Yeah, they're really not afraid to pull out anything, and
yeah.
I'm excited to see what they pull out on the next map, but I really want to see Renegades maybe change something up a little bit. I kind of feel like they're forcing the same thing on a few of these maps, even with the difference. Small changes in the draft, but not enough to make a difference against how flexible Kanga are.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to find some type of way to at least get a chance at life here. Kanga already with a dominating 3-0 lead. Right after this break, we'll be right into Game 4.
INAP, powering the control room for the Paladins Premier League.
Well, things just are, well, on the verge of catastrophic failure here for the Renegades. Kanga, on the other hand, are having a incredibly successful run so far, not dropping a single point in any of these games. They find themselves another 4-0 there on Ice Mines. And, well, Nick, they seal the deal. They look good doing it.
I hope this, and I think it is, Kanga finding something to rally around, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily all IO, but it feels like they're coming together, right? Granted, this is a matchup statistically they should win. But I want to see them back on the upswing here. Just in time for Worlds, it feels like this is the time to start ramping up. They had a big win against NIP not too long ago either, part of that real rough week for NIP. But if they can just keep this going, man, I think they'll be in a good spot for the World Championship.
And it's good to see them not just winning, but winning as convincingly as they are, right? It's 4-0s. It's control from them that we haven't gotten to see like that in the past. Evil Eye, 100k damage, 7, 2, and 11. And even though he did the damage, the slash lines don't fall in favor to him. 9-0 and 17, part of 26 kills there for Guerra throughout all 4 of those. And I mean, you just can't ignore him.
Yeah, and he's Guerra specifically. Grover, ignore the scoreboard in these clips, folks. It's all about Guerra's slash line undying on Grover. Ice Mines has been Grover's map. People are picking him first. I think it's debatable, especially in these triple tank environments. Surprising that the Renegades didn't go for him. We talked about healing and options that Furia has. She has some of the best in the game for a healing triple frontliner. But I think undoubtedly Viral, who does like Grover, probably would have rather been on the tree this time around instead of the Angel of Vengeance. One of the oldest to do it in the support category. Still getting it done. Deathless here on Ice Mines.
And that, I mean, 2 successful games of IO into a deathless run on Grover. He's having pretty much exactly the 3 games that he would like to, hoping that he can maybe tie that off with a nice bow in whatever map number 4 ends up being. But I mean, for Kanga, I don't want to call this unprecedented, but this is just success that they haven't had in a while for them.
Yeah.
And for Renegades, I mean, it's kind of rare. You've gone through, I would argue, the 2 maps that have been your successful stones. Frozen Guard, Ice Mines have been kind of your pillars. So now you're going to Bright Marsh with some high hopes.
Yeah, and a map that is known for, you know, being fast, being 4-0-able, and the way that Kanga are going at the moment, this one could be over sooner rather than later. Renegades have made the choice to come to Bright Marsh. This is their pick. Hopefully they have a plan. I'm sure they do. What that plan is shall be revealed in time. For now, Willow will be taking a seat for this one. Bright Marsh, one of her strongest maps. So much airspace to dominate with the Fae Flight. And frankly, you have that small little angle, kind of like I was talking about on Warder's Gate. It's not a lot of high ground, but you barely need any. Like, basically, as small as you could get is enough just to be able to splash off of the ground consistently. And the staircase through the window, that's enough. The little garden box, that's enough. All of it's good enough here to warrant the first ban.
And a Nara banned out there by Kanga. I'm kind of curious, you know, looking at what we had last time and even last set. Makoa and Atlas aren't as prominent bans as they need to be. They will still show up pretty often down there. Sometimes you just don't have to worry about it. And, well, when they come through, it's up to the players to determine whether or not they get banned again the next time around. But this is another map, you know, if you want to take someone into the air, if you're Shadow here, maybe if you're Evil Eye. Bomb King has performed well on this map in the past, but Drogo's has also been pretty prominent on here. And so Renegades, they banned out Willow Drogo's last time. This time, Makoa will take his place.
And wow, we're getting a little bit deeper into the front line category here. Kanga, I don't know if they will give Renegades Atlas again. Obviously, not enough strong frontliners, I think, to warrant a team wanting to go for triple frontline with what's left. But Ash, Khan, all still available. I don't know if Khan's really first pick material anymore, though, man.
Yeah, he's
granted that it's only him and Ash left. I think there's a little bit more value there. Just to be able to yoink her out of her ultimates, Commander's grab her out of her shoulder bash, and stuff like that.
Well, with an Aragon, Barrick kind of does skyrocket maybe in price
also
overall.
True.
His stock is out the roof right now.
Get Joel off it for
But they're
a
still
game.
having it.
Yeah, I think you go Ash Barrick here.
And then done and dusted. You feel good about it. I mean, the rest of the game, if you're able to control it on 2, I don't think the game's over based on that, but having the 2 front lines that you've been very successful with all day, you might as well be pretty happy with it.
I don't know. This is tough. Because Ruckus is still in the conversation, I think.
True, especially for Bright Marsh.
Rhino's been playing it. It's good on Bright Marsh.
Last one standing wins!
We'll grab that Barrick. I think either Ash or Ruckus is still fine. Kind of that same angle of don't need to rush it. if both teams already have one and there's enough for everyone, there's enough to go around for the rest of the game. You don't need to rush down grabbing both your frontliners. Start working on those high priority DPS sooner rather than later.
Also, unless they lock in Ash Ruckus here, I doubt Renegades are going to truly be able to grab both of them. Fernando's still on board for Point Tank to be able to come through. If they've been studying their homework and maybe playing them, they could always see maybe Hero do the Polizzarini, try to go for the Terminus. And really, honestly, the only frontline now that maybe isn't seen is Torvald in a rare turn of events, but it looks like they will, well, at least for now, hover the Ash Cassie.
That wasn't very
And
nice.
hope that maybe that pressure that they'll have from the off-tanks is going to be strong enough.
Good picks for sure. High health frontliners. Cassie deals with them nicely. They're both pretty slow-ish moving, so they're easy enough to hit. Double Wrecker as well. Cassie scales very well with Wrecker, so not having to worry about that going through your Con and your Ash very quickly. I'm honestly, well, I'm a little curious now what Kanga are left to pick with, because Renegades, despite how this set has gone, they still have a good front line to mobilize and to get aggressive and to dive a back line. So I don't know if you can go with something that's too low mobility. I was almost thinking Vivian for a little bit, just to absolutely sometimes the best way out is through when you're getting dove by front lines, and Vivian goes through, I think, better than anyone in the cast. It will be the Ruckus run back here. This is not triple DPS, but kind of is triple DPS.
Bringing out the big guns.
Ruckus has nothing except that personal shield, and even that is arguably not very frontline-esque. Vivian has a personal shield. He is as damaging, as DPS-like as a frontliner gets in the game.
Now, the notorious counter to Ruckus is a Cassie with Wrecker. You were already saying she can just go, that's going to scale well.
Yep.
Is that going to, I mean, not only be prominent this game, but does that kind of maybe put a fork in the plans for Kanga?
Definitely less than ideal. Sure, it's probably the worst matchup in the game for Ruckus, but there are other characters, and matchups always go out the window if you kind of get the ambush on whatever matchup is. I don't think there's a matchup skewed enough that you know, if you get the opening shots, Ruckus is right on top of Cassie. I'm just envisioning him, you know, advancing off of the high ground on top of Cassie, right? Dropping missiles and just going to work.
Yeah.
If an Eevee's diving alongside him, there's so much that skews that matchup. Yes, it's bad on paper. Doesn't always work out in practice that way. Sometimes it does work out that way, and that's fine too. I think it's a worthwhile pick. Renegades have a good composition to kind of dive in there. And I was going to say, you can't dive what's not there, because they had a very aggressive composition up until this point. Running Strix into a Maeve, into an Ash, and hell, even into a Con, really, with a Cassie to scout you out of stealth and, you know, all those kind of types of shenanigans. It's a questionable pick, I think, at best for me, but with the way it's going, I'm keen to sit here and just, you know, hold my tongue and see how it works out.
I mean, channeling their inner Stigma, pulling out Strix on Brightmarsh, or if you want to go back even further, channeling Ninim, who was Valentine a long time ago when he played for Kanga as well. It's going to be interesting to see if they can make the Strix work on this map as they lock it down. But hey, it's Brightmarsh, and it could be the end of the set.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect way to put it. Kanga's already up 3-0, man, and Renegades have barely had a chance of actually trying to claw their way back up to the top. Like you said, Krezzik, it's been a 12-0, technically. They haven't been able to catch a point off of Kanga. The only thing they're catching right now is hands, clearly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Kanga are performing really well, and I know Nick was a little worried about the composition, but I think I see what Kanga might be going for. To me, I think this screams counter dive, where they're going to kind of sit back, play on their Strix, use the Barrack and Ruckus to poke a little bit, but as soon as Renegades try to make a move and go for something, that's when the rest of Kanga will find their opening and move in. That's when a team is going to be the weakest. If you can, when they're spreading themselves too thin to extend for a pick, that's when I think Kanga will try to strike and equalize the fight against Renegades.
Yeah, I mean, already we see that. Of course, Renegades are really trying to apply this pressure, but I actually like that, because what you're saying is already true now, Krezzik. You see how far back they are. Hero and them were eating a lot of damage. They were not being aggressive at all. They were waiting for the flank. They saw the opportunity. Joel's actually gets thrown directly behind him, but Hero's already on the point, and really, the rest of his team is eating so much damage, they can't push in to follow up with it.
When you keep too much distance between you and an Eevee, that's the best way, I think, to counter her and deal with her. So by waiting, Kanga put Evil Eye in a much better position. He wants to be as close to them, or close enough to them that his blink can kind of mess with them a little bit. You know, make them turn their heads, not be ready to deal with it. Quick little trade there, but it immediately swings to Kanga's favor.
Already 3 kills in favor of Kanga Esports, a 4th one coming out of Joel's names, a 5th one coming out in Rhino. We're looking at a full-on team wipe. 99% already for Kanga. The flashbang is already up. And I mean, I'm starting to lose things to say, man. Like, Renegades, they have to find something, anything to give them a chance at life right now.
And Kanga, this really feels like it was a pre-planned draft, purely because of the Inara ban, right? They ban Inara. They say, all right, well, if we take the Barrack, now they're going to have to be super aggressive. So Kanga just sits back. They wait. They farm up that cap top. Hero tries to make something happen, but it's not really what Khan's supposed to do, and that's what led to that wipe. They overextend and try to make something happen as the cap timer goes down. Kanga just completely wipe them off the face of the earth.
Yeah, and here comes the Inflame actually to try and counteract what the pressure that Kanga's putting onto Renegades. Already daggers are coming through. They're finding a lot of damage on the Rhino, but Chronix gets a kill on the hero. Ash just respawned. That Inflame, what was supposed to be their opening, ends up being their demise. They lost several people in that exchange. Midnight is building. It's already there. It just got there. But they've got Hexfire. They've got Ice Storm. They've got 3 Time and Space. And they've got Dome Shield soon. With Kanga still pushing, they haven't let up at all throughout this match. The kill on Chronix, hopefully, is an opening they need.
Especially with how aggressive Renegades are taking it. You can see how far behind Invokal's playing right now. Just trying to split them and make them go back, but he might go down for this. They do manage to catch Joel's, and now they're going to be a little bit more aggressive, but a good Void Grip from Gera kind of stems the tide a little bit.
Oh, Hero comes out with the Commander's Grab to try and see if he can yoink Gera, but it's a little bit too late. Invokal manages to clean up that kill for him. A minute still left on the clock. That kill early on to Chronix by Invokal was enough to cause them to set themselves back and allow Renegades to finally start pushing their lead, pushing their advantage. They found their opening. They just need to keep it a lot more than they've been offering. They get another kill on the Chronix, though, and that's going to be good. Renegades have started to realize how they need to approach this fight.
They need to play it a little bit slower. I think Kanga waiting so long that whatever team makes the first move might end up being the team that loses the fight if both teams are playing properly.
You're right.
I think the way that Kanga tried to play there was they moved in, Renegades countered, and then they said, all right, turn and burn Invokal. Turn and kill this Mave before they can do anything. 2 missed shots from the Eevee with how quickly a Mave can take someone down, kind of flipped it. You can see now Renegade's getting very aggressive over here, and look at the peel!
Wow,
everyone from Kanga coming to save him!
They did. He still goes down, but it's at the cost of 2 kills, man. Renegades has all of their ultimates up. Hero eating a lot of damage. Another quick scope coming out from Chronix. Put it in a Call of Duty montage. A nice intervention kill already that Strix has right there. Sniping out, quick scoping 2 individuals on Renegade's sides. All the ultimates are up on both teams' sides, though. So when they round this corner, they could use it if they feel like they need to.
They're going to have to play really careful right now, though. Gera's still kind of coming back on the respawn. It is Geno, so might not matter quite as much, but Moonchopper going down immediately, even through the Inflame. That's disastrous for Renegades with that resource out of the picture now.
Yeah, Void Grip all ready to come up on an Invokal. He just didn't get what he needed to. Tried to go on a Chronix. He got healed all the way back up. Hero eating a lot of damage. Shield broke. Shield machine broke already. Overtime is ticking down in this case. Kanga's trying to push in, but he gets Void Grip. Force choked in that case. Moonchopper goes down 2-0 in Kanga's side. My goodness. What can you do, Kresnik?
You got to play a little bit slower. I know both teams have this aggressive composition, but what we're seeing here, almost every single fight, the team that makes the first move is the team that's getting counterplayed. They're showing their hand first, and it's just not working out for them. So I think Renegades, it's going to be so hard for them. They almost have to play off of an overpower because they don't have tanks that can live on the point and contest that Barrack. With this double off tank, the slow play really does benefit Kanga.
It really does. I mean, 4-1 for Evil Eye, 2-2 for Rhino, 0-3 for Gera, but the 15 assists are there. Man, oh man, 4-2 for Joel's, 8-2 for Chronix, with Strix already at the top, almost double than what most of their team has on Renegade's side, man. I mean, Renegades were able to open up. They were able to get the kills on Chronix, but they've got, you're right, they've got to play a lot slower. They got to take their time, man.
And they actually might be able to make it work now, but they are going first. Ice Storm slows down and
come
catches
on.
Invocal. Chronic's disengaging here, but it looks like the kills are going to keep going to Kanga.
Evil Eye gets one. Gara finds another thanks to the Void Grip. Moonchopper's trying to get out of there. Shoulder bashed his way in. They tried to dive, but Kanga shaking their finger at Renegades in this case. I mean, man, oh man, dude. It's like they find quote unquote their opening. They try and go in, but they get picked off every single time.
They had really great counter ultimates. I mean, Ice Storm going on the high ground completely slowed down the push, and Vocal couldn't pounce to get his damage reduction. Great dismounts now from Kanga are going to completely deny a touch. Moon might actually make it in at the last second, but he does not have assert dominance, so he's just going to go down.
Void Grip to go up, Dome Shield to come down in this case. I mean, what can you do? Can you break this defensive line that Kanga has right now? The second team wipe? Are you kidding me in this case? On Kanga's side, this is absolutely ridiculous.
I honestly don't know what else to say about the style of play that Kanga are bringing to the table, right? Because this really is kind of a case of Renegades are hitting their head against a brick wall.
Yeah.
And they're just really waiting for that brick wall to fall. I understand why. I mean, when you're in this position, there's so much pressure on you. It's hard to see. You draft this comp and you say, we're going to get aggressive, and that's not working. And you go, well, what's next?
Yeah.
If our aggressive comp isn't working aggressively, it's hard to see the other options, but Renegades really have to kind of de-panic themselves and figure it out, because clearly this aggression is just not working.
Yeah, I mean, the shots are coming through for Evil Eye already with 2 kills in his name. I mean, he's already looking at a third. Shadow right now gets healed right back up thanks to Viral. A minute 40 already. He gets stunned by the power strike. Bing blinks in at the wrong time, gets stunned, gets wiped out, but they've still got a minute 35.
Vocal actually trying to kind of force the issue here. You can see a little bit of a disconnect. Moonchopper coming in with him, but gets the assert dominance, and being invincible is definitely one way to not get punished for being aggressive.
I mean, I entirely agree with that. 4 kills already on Renegade's side. The Midnight is there, the Scout is there, but Kanga in response, they have the Flashbang, they have the Hexafire, they've got the Ice Storm, and now Dome Shield is coming up soon. I mean, man, dude, look at the Strix damage here. Like, Renegades, they have the damage. Their damage dealers, they're killing, they're hitting their shots, but it's not like Strix in this case, where he's staying back, he's being patient. Midnight to try and go in, but when you use that when your teammate is already void gripped, man, you can't find the opportunity that you need.
Just a complete mismatch in pacing by Moonchopper. He was in when the Midnight was coming in, so everyone on Kanga knew where to shoot. Now they're trying to get out at the last second, but Rhino just laying in this damage finds Invocal on the side.
Ice blocks to prevent himself from getting Commander's grab in this case, but he makes it out thanks to the healing from Genos. He gets one shot, manages to actually net it. Now the shield's being broke again. Moonchopper tries to charge in, but it's a little bit too late at this point. He goes down. 3 kills in Kanga's name, the slash line, telling a beautiful story here about how Kanga is already dominating 12-4, 9-2, 8-4, 2-4, and 28, 6-4 as well. Hero gets the overpower, but he dies as a result. Come on, man.
He wasn't able to throw him in time. I mean, it's a long way to go, and all these resources in Kanga's pocket. Dome Shield and Hexafire coming out. There's nothing else that Renegades can do, and Kanga take a 16-0 victory over the Renegades.
Not one single point that Renegades was able to get that entire set. Man, oh man, that has to hurt. Like, you see it right now. Like, that, my goodness, I can't even explain not only how fast that was, but how one-sided that. I've never seen that happen, even to Renegades.
Yeah, I honestly don't know if it has happened before. I keep stats, but not off the top
like
of my
that,
head for that one. And it not only was it so strong from Kanga, but it was on maps that teams should be holding on. It was Frozen Guard, it was Ice Mine, so it really just shows how well they figured things out. I felt like they always had the better hand going into the game, and they always executed just right on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, Kanga just they had the draft, they had the focus. We've seen so many characters today. Like I said, we never would have expected to see it all. Buck, Io brought out at least 2 or 3 games in this case. I mean, Kanga, they've been doing their research because we're seeing stuff that we've never seen before.
Yeah, years of research coming out of them.
Yeah.
They know, they just knew what to pull out for this patch. Yeah. They were clearly ready, and this could be a new look for Kanga coming up from here. We'll have to see how they look moving forward, but this new patch could be a brand new start for them.
I mean, a 16-0 in Kanga's name once again. 4-0 clean sweep. Absolutely quick game. Kanga did not hear the play he gave at this point. I mean, I don't really know what else to say, so I'm just going to. Oh, yeah, heard
Play 4 exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in this case, Kanga did so well. We're going to throw it right back to the desk to get their thoughts on it.
Well, I can't put it any better myself. 16-0 as they just take point after point after point, not sharing with anyone. I mean, sharing is caring, Kanga. You got to learn that at some point. But as it is right now, they very solidly smack this one down out of the hands of the Renegades and keep themselves, I want to say, in the conversation for top 7 PPL, maybe even rising up.
Well, top 7, sure. I mean, they can at least be Renegades.
Very carefully.
They'll be top 7. Fun day to watch for Kanga. A lot of good stuff going for them. This was almost exactly the Warder's Gate composition that they ran.
Yeah.
And it was sort of that theme of the day, right? Chronix is going to play something kind of chilling, kind of backline, very low mobility. Rhino and Evil Eye dive together. And ideally are diving on softened up targets thanks to Chronix.
I mean, 9-2 and 21. I think I saw a 20 streak there for Evil Eye. Did incredibly well on the EV. But that space was given to him, I want to say, and granted to him with a little bit of help from Rhino here on this Ruckus, who, you said it earlier, looked really good, but a 4.1 KDA was just as solid on Bright Marsh.
Yeah, man. And the production was making the joke of tower defense. So many times
this was his zone,
Rhino
dude.
got posted up here. I think the call-out is green for a lot of teams for this little area. He gets up on that wall, and he just goes to town. And largely because he was zoning, people are not, fighting back really, but he's just up there uncontested, knocking people off their horses and doing whatever he wants. And then whoever's the weakest, once everyone's off their horse, that's who gets dove on.
And, well, he was able to do it excellently several times. That one replay just kind of showcasing, I think, the gist of it, because I saw him do it at least 4 or 5 times from that same position, and pretty much the same order of kills as well, whether it was a point fight, a push, whatever. I was going to say a defense, but not a defense. They didn't have to face any of those throughout this set. And, well, hey, 16 points straight in a row. Let's see how the boys themselves are feeling right now.
All right, thank you guys so much for passing it down to us. But of course, welcome you guys. You guys did an amazing job. And of course, I have to ask the question, how does it feel to pull off one of the first 16 O's it is that we've seen in the league so far?
Yeah, it feels great. I didn't even know that there wasn't much 16 O's, but yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, it feels great.
Did you guys know if there had been one? Because we actually weren't sure. I didn't think there was, but so I have to ask, because I think a lot of people were surprised about this. I mean, the IO pick on the first 2 maps. Have you guys had that kind of in your pocket for a while?
Yeah, we've been practicing IO, see what she can do, and yeah, she's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question to follow up off of that one is, we saw a lot of interesting drafts from you guys today. What really influenced that? Do you feel like the patch sort of played a part in that, since we're seeing sort of people veer off a little bit from the normally traditional damage amp picks, or what influenced you guys for that?
I think Torvald dropped off a little bit, but we don't mind trying new things and testing stuff out. And we figured what we've got now catches teams off guard, I guess, which works well for us.
How did you guys prep for the Renegades coming into today? Did you know that they had kind of some decent variety, I would say, in the drafts throughout the day? They had, triple tank, triple DPS, standard. Was there anything you guys did in particular to prepare for them?
Not really. We just scrimmed and, just felt good going in from our scrim results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you guys very much for talking to us. Congratulations again on taking potentially the first 16-0 victory in the entire PPL. Must be nice to not go to a Game 7. But for now, we're going to send it down to the desk to wrap up the day.
Thank you.
And wrap it up we shall. Again, 16-0 right there. 4 zeros all across the board. And 2 4-0s today as the sets come through. A lot more. I was, actually talking to you about it, talking to Dave about it, but Envy Navi should have been 6 games in my mind. It was very surprising to see it come through. Even, Spunky kind of said that one as well. But it was just good Paladins. You want to watch that? That's what that is. If you want to watch Kanga win day in, day out, watch that last set one more time. They just floored it for how they wanted to go through. I mean, this is one of the fastest days of PPL we've had so far.
Yeah, pretty crazy to see. I think Team Envy, a little surprised that they didn't even put up a map there. The fact that Kanga 4-0'd Renegades, I'm not as much surprised. Again, both those teams have a bit of a reputation for being a little volatile. Depends a lot on how they start, too. And I think that's just true for human beings, right? Start off on a good foot, you're going to be feeling good for the rest of that set. You're more likely to keep talking and keep your heads up to know what that win feels like, tastes like for today. It's a much better way to get going, and the Renegades just never able to get that taste in their mouth.
And tomorrow you'll see Kanga take on Envy, Renegades will take on Na'Vi, and then kind of the show match, I guess, to be tacked onto the end. SSG and Knights will be playing. And so some of those have potential to be maybe just as quick, maybe quicker, maybe longer, honestly, considering 4-0s. You can only really go up from there. So we'll have to see how that affects them. But first we have to see how that affects the standings as of right now. Kanga, Knights kind of fighting down there, 8-13, 7-15. Still trying to compete, I would argue, right now with SSG. But for Na'Vi, for Envy, they're still a little up higher on the bracket. Na'Vi not taking that very comfortable slot into first, it feels like.
Yeah, this is honestly kind of cool. 1 and 2 are very close. 3 and 4 are very close. 5, 6, and 7 are honestly pretty close as well. This is really all you can ask for going into the final, roughly month or so of PPL before we get to that placement round. So a lot of stuff still up in the air. Top 4 is not rock solid. Neither is the bottom 4 necessarily.
Yeah.
So either way, you could be seeing different teams cycling in or out of that finals bracket for HRX and having to play through placements.
And that's where everyone's mind is at. For every single one of these players, every single team, it's just, what can we do to be, if you're not in the top 4, how do we get to the top 4? If you're in the top 4, it's how do we stay in the top 4? I think Na'Vi have kind of more or less solidified themselves up at the top, that knocking them out of that top 4 will be difficult, but it's anyone's game as of right now, and the PPL's more competitive than ever.
Yeah, seeding definitely matters going into Worlds as well, especially depending on how everything shakes out in these last couple of weeks. You don't always want to be. Sometimes first seed could end up being tougher depending on where Envy and SSG end up sitting. That could be a tough side of the bracket. But of course, every team just fighting to do their best and give themselves the best chance at some hardware at the end of the year.
It'll be interesting to see how these teams are able to handle it. Tomorrow will be just as interesting a day, if not more interesting than we saw today. And remember, same place, different time. We'll be starting 2 hours earlier than we did today, 11 a.m. here, mixer.com/Paladins game. My name's been Gormizer. That's pretty here from everyone here at Skillshot. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the Paladins Premier League.
So good at pretending, keep on smiling in my tiny bubble, like a movie without ending, spending time like it was going backwards, bruises covering my walls but they fall.